I spent 4 years chronically sick and we were trying everything. My mom and dad spent about $30,000 the first year trying to help me when the drugs weren't working because the next thing was a total surgery. We went to UCLA, we went to Cedars-Sinai, we went to Mayo Clinic. It was the same thing. You need to be on drugs, biologics for the rest of your life. And if this continues not to work and you keep failing these medications, we need to remove part or all of your colon. And I was, when those conversations started, I was about 24, 25.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Digest This podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. And today on the show, we have Dane Johnson, and he is a board certified nutritionist who founded the Crohn's Colitis lifestyle to help others struggling with IBD to find relief just as he has through a natural approach. And in today's episode, Dane shares his story along with what anyone listening can do to get their life back struggling with IBD. And in this episode, he also covers his own story and shares how he himself almost died from gut issues. And he also shares, how anyone suffering can be healed by resetting the mind and changing their way of eating that's individualized for them. I was personally inspired by our conversation, and I know everyone listening will be too. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All my regular listeners know that each month I give away amazing quality goods to those that simply rate and review the podcast. And so for the month of October, I'm giving away giant pale buckets of Artisana Organics organic chocolate spreads, plus their seasonal gingerbread pecan butters to 3 of my listeners. You guys heard me. I'm dishing out giant buckets of basically a healthier version of Nutella that's organic certified, palm oil free, cashew cocoa spread, just in time for all your holiday baking. If you were to buy this online, one pail would cost you $58 just for one bucket of this delicious chocolate spread. That just goes to show how much volume this pail truly contains and what you'll be getting. Plus, I'm also going to include 2 extra jars of Artisana Organics seasonal gingerbread pecan spread you can only get from them directly. This is not sold in stores. So 3 of my listeners will receive over $80 worth of quality organic nut butters. And all you have to do is rate and review this podcast, and I will be reaching out to you on Instagram if chosen. So be sure you leave your IG handle in your review. Good luck. Better digestion means better skin, better mood, better brain function, better immune function, and optimum digestion can even regulate your hormones. Because when you can't digest food properly, you're not able to absorb the nutrients you're consuming. And that is where we get our energy and vitality from to combat and regulate our entire body. So you want to make sure your gut is on point, and that's why I focus so much on gut health. I get asked all the time on my Instagram what probiotic pill I recommend and if I even do recommend any at all. Well, the one I personally take is Seeds DS-01. This has been in my home for almost an entire year now. And the reason I love it is, because 1, it doesn't need refrigeration. And if you're taking a probiotic capsule that does need refrigeration, you better think twice, because if it needs refrigeration, then how will it survive your 98.6 body temperature once you ingest it? Seeds DS-01 capsule is a soil-based probiotic and prebiotic, and it's a capsule within a capsule. So there's 2 capsules in one. This is designed to make its way all the way through your stomach and survive your stomach acid, with studies even showing its 100% survivability rate. Seed is a pre and probiotic that makes gut support simple. Healthy regularity and an ease of bloating are just a few other common perks you may experience, some in as little as 24 hours. Each person does react differently, of course, and you can't substitute a pill for a healthy diet. When I take it, I make sure it's in the morning on an empty stomach for it to thoroughly do its job. And with their sustainable biomaterials and refill system delivered each month, they are making more of an impact on the earth beyond our own bodies. So get the real deal in a symbiotic, one that's backed by clinical trials and scientific data. And you guys know I have a code for you. So if you visit seed.com/digest, use code DIGEST to receive a whopping 30% off your first month of Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic. Again, that's seed.com/digest and use code DIGEST. Seed.com/digest and use code DIGEST. Thank you so much, Dane, for coming on the show. I mean, I feel like it's been years since we last connected.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel blessed to be here. And yes, it's been so long. I remember we were chatting. I think it's probably been about 5 years that we were chatting, and you were telling me your story with, your gut health, and you had been through so much. And then I was like, man, I'd really been through it. But I think it's funny. And one big takeaway is you went through so much great pain and hardship, and look where that took you. That pain turned to purpose. And same with me.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I feel like we have very similar stories, but I'd love for you to share yours. But before we do, I like to start off real strong here. And what are some stats on people suffering with Crohn's and colitis? And what are the stats of those with IBS as far as how many people are suffering with Crohn's and colitis?
I think it's a lot more than we even know. Most of us don't want to go to the doctor. I'll give you an example of, I was working with somebody who was working to help me build my website. They were like my digital contractor. And she was saying, oh, is blood in the stool a bad thing? Is that a sign of Crohn's colitis? I was like, yeah, that's a pretty big one. She goes, oh, that happens to me. Another example, I was working with one of my clients, and he was a pro rugby player. And he came back and he said about 3 or 4 of his guys on his team get blood in the stool. And they eat 6,000 calories a day, 2-day workouts, run 10 miles a day. They don't go to the doctor. No one wants to check. So I think that if everyone actually went to the GI doctor, we'd see a much larger epidemic of IBD and IBS. And it's also hard to diagnose. I don't know about you, but when I got diagnosed, it was, oh, it's just gastritis. No, it's ulcerative colitis.
Totally.
No, it's Crohn's disease. Oh, no, it's diverticulitis. Oh, it's microscopic colitis. So there was a lot of uncertainty on what's actually happening. But I think right now, around the US, we got roughly about 3 million with IBD. It might be a bit more depending on how many different types of identity we're seeing. And we're considering upwards of 30 million with IBS. But the numbers are it's so hard to say. It could be much higher. I think if we look at anyone who's dealing with urgency, diarrhea, bloating, gas, these types of symptoms, signs of SIBO, it's much greater. I mean, we can all sit down with our friends and say, who here's getting bloating, gas, sometimes urgency or constipation, and it's the predominant amount.
I feel like everyone would raise their hand if you asked that question, because IBS, that's a little bit, I feel like Crohn's and colitis is under the umbrella of IBS. Would you agree?
Yeah, I could always consider IBS kind of like, how they call you pre-diabetic and diabetic. I consider IBS almost like pre-IBD. So a lot of members that we have, or our clients that we work with, were first diagnosed with IBS. Oh, I had IBS as a young person, and then it developed into something else. That's a very common theme we see. And
now, explain the difference between IBS and IBD.
It's really diagnosis and inflammation. Like a person with IBS can actually get many of the same symptoms that are traumatizing us. So irritable bowel disease, usually we have food sensitivity. We'll see symptoms of gas, bloating, urgency, diarrhea, trauma around food fear. And IBD is really where we just get that diagnosis, or we see high calprotectin. We see chronic inflammation somewhere in the bowel. It could be the duodenum, the ileum, it could be the colon somewhere. And so that's why there's also a common change in diagnosis. And we're going, wait, what do I have? What's this? I have this form. I don't have that form. For example, one of our latest members, he wasn't diagnosed with IBD till he was 62. And then it was a perfect example. He was first diagnosed with diverticulitis, and then he was diagnosed with microscopic colitis, and then he was diagnosed ulcerative colitis. And the crazy thing is we got him symptom free in about 3 months. one of the core problems was he couldn't release the toxins in his bowel. He couldn't have a proper bowel movement. So he'd have 10 bloody bowel movements a day, but everything would be sediment, small, tiny little stringy bowel movement. He couldn't properly release. There was too much swelling, too much inflammation, and he didn't have the right substance to be able to evacuate. And then that kind of caused almost like a toxic pond versus a
Hmm.
running stream.
Wow. And 3 months and you got him up and running
Yeah,
again. That's crazy. And I want to go into that as well with 'cause
yeah,
all the work that you do with the Crohn's Colitis Foundation.
yeah.
And so that's amazing that you're helping so many people. But before we get into that, I really need people to know your story because you literally almost died.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't say that lightly. And I don't want people to see that as just like something to say. December 14th, 2014, I was right. I think that was the date that the doctors were telling my mom and my dad, who had flown into the hospital to see me, that I might not live. It was a very traumatic thing. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate to help and I want to be here now. And it's why I've dedicated my life to this Crohn's colitis issue. And I hope to serve everyone listening today. And, I think that I went through such pain and agony and trauma, and I was sick for a lot of years, and nothing was really working. And I was willing to take every medication. I don't know about you, but for me, I just wanted my life back. I was a 22-year-old kid who was just saying, fine, give me prednisone, sure. Remicade, sure. Methotrexate, 6-MP, Lialda, you name it. I went on a chemotherapy to actually, because one doctor believed it was a virus, which was actually one of the reasons it got so life-threatening. Cytomegalovirus was one of the viruses we'd found. And I had to go on an antiviral chemotherapy to save my life because the antibiotics, the 200 milligrams of infused prednisone, the TPN feeding tube, the biologics were not working. And I was just getting more sick. And, my parents were taking turns sleeping at the hospital with me. My mom would hold a bedpan under my butt, and I go to bathroom, 30 bloody, watery bowel movements a day. I dropped to 120 pounds. Today I'm 180. As you look at me, I'm 6'2". And it was just, yeah, the worst.
Take us back a little bit. So, when did you start noticing symptoms and what were the symptoms?
That's a really interesting point. I want to say this to anyone else who's just getting maybe some IBS. I remember being 14 years old, eating a bag of corn chips or having chips and salsa and just ballooning up. And I remember laughing about it with friends. We'd be at Chili's or something like that, one of these restaurants. And I just remember so much ballooning up of my belly, which is a common theme. So I remember even as a young age, no one knew back then. I mean, my family just thought, eat whatever. We were from Virginia. We hadn't really known sickness in our family. We didn't know organic food. I ate 2% milk with cereal every single morning. Everything I had gluten. I worked at Papa John's Pizza for 4 years. I ate Papa John's Pizza 3 days a week. I mean, it was just what we did as a kid. So that, I think I noticed things back then, but when you're that age, you don't even look at your bowel movements. So I think I became more aware because at 19 years old, I was starting to get into really more heavier weightlifting and athletics. So I was drinking 3 shakes a day of whey protein from GNC, General Narcotics Center. And it was, and I looked down the toilet one day and I saw a bunch of blood, and I was about 18, 19 years old. And then I said, okay, I got to stop. So I got off the high intensity training, all the protein, the low carb, high protein stuff with really toxic protein that I later figured out.
Well, I want to just point out too, I see this too in a lot of people that are in the quote health and fitness industry is they think they are doing the best for their body and they're really into quote nutrition, but they're taking in all these protein bars, these protein shakes, these prepackaged things. And it's not about the ingredients, it's about the macros. It's about, have you ever heard of the IIFYM, if it fits your macros? And it's like, oh, I can eat a Pop-Tart because it fits my macros or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I see this a lot, and all these people have gut issues.
All of them.
It's crazy. So, so you're into this, right? You're drinking the shakes, you're doing all that, and then...
And it was, and you're absolutely right about that. It was, I got to have over 1-to-1 proteins every day. So if I weigh 185, 190 pounds, I need to have 200, 220 grams of protein. So I would look on the back of an ingredient and just say, how much protein's in here? How much can they slam in here? Without really looking at the ingredients, what was in there, different forms of maltodextrin and the type of dairy and all this type of stuff. And I would get, terrible smelling farts, lots of bloating, urgency, diarrhea. I started getting cystic acne. That was another thing. So I'll go to the gym and I'll see these people all pumped up, all big, trying to push testosterone levels, just get as much protein into that, into the body as possible. And if you're starting to notice acne in the body, that's something that your body's starting to break down. Adrenal fatigue, the foul smelling bowel movements, the foul smelling gas, the cramping. And then if you constantly feel like you need a pre-workout. So I would have these intense pre-workouts. I'd be sipping on this, very toxic dairy-based protein while I was working out. And then I would just try to push my body to its highest potential. And so that's when I started noticing. And it was funny because even when I was in the industry and I was acting and modeling professionally, I was in great shape. I was muscular and I was low 6% body fat. I could bench 320 pounds. I was really strong, but I was on prednisone. I was on Lialda. I would take these pre-workouts and go to the gym. I go to the bathroom 3 times at the gym. But as long as I got my workout in, as long as I saw my physical body look its best, that's all my mind cared about.
And you were a model, right? You were a Calvin Klein model and all these things.
Calvin Klein had me on option. I never shot for Calvin Klein, but no, I did some Zoolander. I really enjoyed it. It was a great way to live in my 20s and travel the world. And yeah, I did a lot of commercial, fun, family friendly type modeling and acting. I did a few little scary movies and commercials and just fun stuff like that. But I did that professionally about 7 or 8 years. And that's actually what allowed me to really work on healing, because I only had to work 3 or 4 days a month, because I would get booked for this job. I'd make all my money in one day, and then I'd spend the rest of the month trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to stop this bleeding? How am I going to stop this weight loss? I remember I shot for a skincare thing in Puerto Rico once, and I was covered in cystic acne. So that was one of the things I couldn't figure out, is I was washing my skin, and I got this big job, and I don't know why they booked me, because I was 20 pounds underweight and I was covered in acne, and it's a skincare thing. And I'm thinking, Beth, I am thinking, what is the irony of my life right now? What is the irony? I am supposed to be a cool cat. I'm supposed to be the guy in the magazine, and I am suffering terribly behind closed doors. I'm hiding it from my agents. I'm hiding it from the clients. I'm hiding it from my family it's just, I don't know what to do. I was literally scrubbing myself with every Costco or CVS acid I could find, and it wasn't getting better. It was not until I started healing internally, getting rid of the candida and yeast, which I find is a huge core problem with the skin issues, backed up liver, gallbladder, being able to properly clean out the toxins, because you're not going to fix your microbiome if you can't clean up the toxins. And so that was really when my skin started changing. We can talk more about that if you want, but I remember going to set, and I would have these makeup artists and meet me early to just cover me in makeup to cover this, because I'm talking welts on my chest, huge welts. And so I had so much shame.
And this is all from your Crohn's and colitis, just because your gut was just such a wreck, and it was more of like a breeding ground for other yeast and candida as well, right?
It was, you can call it Crohn's colitis. My body was just chronically sick, and it was a GI issue. Yes. So all of that cystic acne happened after years of taking steroids, years of taking antibiotics, years of still not knowing what to do with my diet. So when I was a kid, my mom would try, and I know there's a lot of moms out there listening, would desperately try to do whatever she could to save me. She would read stuff on Google. She would read people's books. She would go to Whole Foods, spend her whole paycheck trying to just do whatever she could. And she'd come home with this really terrible tasting gluten-free bran cereal, because she knew I liked cereal, and she would try to give me the gluten-free bread, and she'd try to cook something, and she didn't have any natural medicine background. And then I was dealing with depression and resentment as a young kid. It's not my responsibility to heal myself. That was actually one of the big roots to me changing, is the beginning years when I was young, I was just the sick kid watching Netflix, and it's the doctor's responsibility to heal me. It's my mom's responsibility to figure it out. Someone write a paycheck to get me good. And that was a big lesson I had to learn. And one of the reasons I sat in chronic pain. So a lot of those years, I mean, I was trying, even when I did eat well and I had just bone broths and I just had pureed carrots and I tried fasting and I tried 12 bananas a day for a while, all these different things. I just kept losing weight, getting more sick, and a lot of these problems kept happening. So it just was a vicious cycle I couldn't get out of. Like Elaine Godsell says, trying to break the vicious cycle. I just couldn't get out. And it seemed like my case was so much worse. I'm sure you had the same thing where I'd read online and someone said, "Oh my God, I cut out the gluten," or I did specific carbohydrate diet and I went paleo or carnivore. And it saved me. It was nothing even close to that easy for me.
Yeah,
There was
for
no
sure.
supplement or no diet that standalone was going to save my life.
It
I
was
was
like,
that
man, you wish it
extreme.
was that easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had mentioned you saw the blood in the stool, kind of
Mhm.
going back to when you were in the fitness and you're like, okay, I got to change something. I got to do. And now blood in the stool, that's obviously a very big sign for Crohn's and colitis, but could you have Crohn's and colitis and not have blood in the stool?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that I want to share with you as you move on, because eventually we have to release the trauma of a symptom. See, me, Bethany, and a friend go out to eat. We all decide to have a celebration meal. We eat a burger, fries, we have a Coke. Me, Bethany go home and have a little bloating, gas, a little diarrhea. Someone with IBD thinks, well, we're thinking, oh my God, am I flaring? Am I flaring? The third person who gets the bloating, gas, and cramping, who doesn't have IBD, someone goes, must have been something I ate. There's a trauma with a symptom. Most people who get blood in the stool, it's most likely a hemorrhoid, maybe a fissure. It doesn't have to be IBD. That's what doctors are a lot of times going to tell you. If you have blood in the stool and you have normal calprotectin, no other major issues, they're going to say, oh, it's probably a hemorrhoid. Take this hemorrhoid cream and something of that nature. Or, I mean, yes, it could be something really devastating. It could be a sign of cancer or something of that nature. But there's a large amount of people who are getting blood in the stool who it's not necessarily IBD. And the same thing could be said for any of these symptoms: mucus, diarrhea, cramping. If I look at the average person who gets bloating, gas, or cramping, and I say, do they have IBD? The predominant answer is no, they don't have IBD. So there's also a trauma in seeing a symptom. A lot of us on the back end, when we start to get control of ourselves, we have to watch the trauma of, I'm seeing something off, because most of us are looking at our bowel movements like a detective. We are just freaking
I
out.
think everyone listening does.
Is a detective, absolute detective. And that's good. But it's also, where can we be free? Most of us don't know how to feel safe again in our own body. And so that's just something I think to heal, you have to feel safe. And so that's also been a problem for all of us, especially, when I went through a life-threatening condition, and it was year after year after year. I hadn't seen a normal bowel movement in years. I hadn't slept through the night. I think it was 8 months. I woke up every single night, 2 to 3 times a night, to have a bowel movement. I was a walking zombie. And so I felt like I was living 2 lives, but all that trauma, I got to release that. So 10 years later, I just want to tell you that we do have to release it and get to a place of safety. And that's, if you ever heard of EMDR, EFT, GNM, you're hearing about these hypnotherapy, you're hearing about these emotional healing aspects. And I think one of the roots that it can help us with, where we can really cherry pick from that, is being able to feel safe again. And being able to be feeling safe again is a close synonym to this holy grail idea of cure. You cannot feel good in your body. You cannot be really healed if you don't feel safe. The signal to your cells is too intense, and that's why everyone listening right now knows, when I get stressed, when I get anxious, I get more symptoms.
I think we
So
all do.
we all do.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I really want to go in a little bit deeper here, but I really want you to also share a little bit more about your story, because
Yeah.
I mean, I know it kind of a little bit deeper, and I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people should just, if anything, for encouragement.
Absolutely. So I'll give you the depth. I spent 4 years chronically sick, and we were trying everything. My mom and dad spent about $30,000 the first year trying to help me when the drugs weren't working because the next thing was a total surgery. We went to UCLA, we went to Cedars-Sinai, we went to Mayo Clinic. It was the same thing. You need to be on drugs, biologics for the rest of your life. And if this continues not to work and you keep failing these medications, we need to remove part or all of your colon. And I was, when those conversations started, I was about 24, 25. I nearly died at 26 on basically my 27th birthday. My 27th birthday was November 24th. I nearly died December 14th. I spent Christmas, New Year's, and my birthday in the hospital. I was housebound for 1 year thereafter. I had already spent all that money. I had already seen naturopath doctors. I had tried strict diets. So I do bone broth for only 5 or 7 days straight. I'd eat only chicken, carrots, and white rice, which one doctor had me do. An ND said, just eat this for 2 or 3 weeks until the symptoms calm down. That was the game plan. So I was just choking down the same baked chicken, the same pureed carrots, and the same little bit of white rice. And I got nowhere. Then I did pureed carrots for 3 or 4 days straight to reset my gut, right? Do the reset. And I woke up and I was 15 pounds lighter. And, I would sit there and just binge Netflix while I don't eat anything, trying to conserve energy. So I would lose weight, I'd lose energy, and then I'd be in a worse position. Then I had to go on a steroid again. So I would go on and off prednisone, 60 milligrams, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 0. Okay, you're flaring again, go back up. 60, 50, 40, 30. And when I tried 6-MP, I started getting these massive night sweats. So I'd wake up in a pool of sweat. I'd hardly have the energy to get up and do something. I just usually cover myself in another blanket. A lot of the blankets, I didn't have any more blankets. This kept happening so often. I lay down towels. And I was hiding this. I didn't want to give up my career or my life. I was hiding this. And, and I started fainting. I was very anemic for a long time, and I was sweating so much. A friend came to visit me, and we were walking. We were actually in Vegas. I'm having water and a banana, and we're just walking down one of these hotels. I faint, crack my head open. We're in the ER room all night long. 6 stitches across my forehead. There's a scar across my head, and I was trying to keep this acting and modeling career alive. Are you kidding me? I mean, I remember I got kicked off set one time because I wouldn't look like my pictures anymore. I'd lost 40 pounds. I didn't fit any of the clothes. They just said, you can go home. And I was scared. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to lose this really amazing career. I made it. No one found me. I made it. I went and made that happen. And I thought I was not just going to only lose that one time in life to do when you're young, but I was going to have to then move back with my mom back in Virginia and live in her house back and give up my new life. I wanted to live in California. And so I just felt like if I did that, I was going to fall into a really deep depression. So I was also going in and out of depression. I was, the prednisone would usually give me some calmness so I could start to get some life back, and then it would go down again and then some life back. And so, Remicade didn't work, but I would also say to Remicade's defense, I never wanted to be on it. Emotionally, spiritually, I never had interest in being on lifelong biologic. When they told me I was going to take it for the rest of my life, I immediately had this negative energy towards the infusions. So that's when I started looking at more natural medicine. And I was, there was no podcast like this. There was no communities. There was no real solutions. Back in 2009, 2010,
Yeah,
2011.
social media, I mean, it wasn't really big like it is now.
No, I had, one of the biggest leaders that really helped change my life was Jordan Rubin's book. And it wasn't just his whole maker's diet and, eat this and take that and have these HMOs. It was what he went through and his mindset. He helped me have the belief that I'm going to do this. Because when I first read about natural healing, my initial thought was, this is impossible. Only 1% of the planet could ever be successful with this long term. And this is a prison you'll have to live in for the rest of your life. That was my emotional takeaway as a young man. Now, I came from standard American diet, eat what you want, everything's easy, no training. So I was really overwhelmed with the entire process. And when I tried, I was willing to do what I was told to do blindly. So when I was failing these diets and failing these, I didn't even know what I was taking or doing. And I was doing it just because I was in so much pain. And I was choking things down, and then I would just binge Netflix, do whatever I could to escape. I was in pure escapism, and it was just whatever. And when it got really bad, That's the thing. All these years, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. I don't want to traumatize anyone listening to me. So if you're going through what you're going through right now, I'm telling you, you don't have to do it. There's so much you can do. I'm here for you. This is why I lead, is because I went through so much pain.
And you can relate to so
Yeah,
many.
I can relate to all of it. I mean, I've worked with clients who were life-threatening in a hospital, and then that's when we started. Like, you're in an ER room. You might not live. Let's start working together now. I've seen a lot of. I work with 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 6-year-olds. It's intense. I've just been in that intense energy, so I don't shy away from it. I know how to build conviction. I know how to get my heart strong. I'm a warrior. I'm a freaking warrior. I've been in that, and I don't know. I'm a soldier. I'm not the guy in the ivory tower. I'm a soldier. I know what it's like to stand up and fight for your life and do what you got to do, despite what these doctors with 200 degrees are saying. And it's a really scary thing. And that's when I started prayer. So, I got out of the hospital. I weighed 122 pounds. I could not walk. I couldn't walk because I had been bed rested for about 2 months. So I had no muscles. So I couldn't flex my calves. I couldn't walk upstairs. I remember my sister took me home from the hospital, and just share the shameful story because I'm not scared of it. I'm not scared of shame anymore. And I lost control of my bowel movements maybe 3 times on the way home in her car. And then I'm covered in my own fecal matter, literally almost dead. And my sister is trying to pick me up and take me into the house. I want to hit a chord, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Now you're going to make me cry.
Give me a second. See, guys, when you talk about this, you relive it.
It's okay. I know everyone appreciates you sharing the story, and coming from someone who's experienced it means so much more.
Yeah. Okay. Let me catch myself there. So anyways, you relive it, and that's something that happens. So my sister was helping, and she'd take me up, and I remember this one moment where I couldn't walk up the stairs. And I was like, man, and I almost laughed to myself because I was like, how is this guy who could bench 320 pounds, Mr. Magazine dude, Mr. Ego, Mr. Know-It-All, I can't walk up this stair. I remember within like a few weeks of being like retraining my body to be able to walk, I had a cane. I remember the first time I went to a gym, I couldn't even there was a personal trainer working with an 80-year-old woman. I couldn't do the weight she was doing on the machine. So to me, it was also becoming laughable. And that's what also saved my life. So if you really connected with that moment, you got to laugh. You got to let it go. You got to laugh. I could not walk. I couldn't flex my calf. So I got home. But the brilliance about when I got home and I checked myself out of the hospital, they told me you should remove your colon. Right now, you almost died. You might die and I just checked myself out. Because once I was on the antivirals, I started waking up. So before that, my mom was in the hospital and she was telling me a lot of these stories. And I think we have a few interviews out there where you can listen. But I was talking to people who weren't alive. I was looking out the window and saying stuff. I was on 3 grams of Dilaudid, which is legalized heroin. So then I had to come off that legalized heroin, those opioids. I had to come off the painkillers. I had to come off the antivirals. I was also on methotrexate and Entyvio. I had to come off the sleeping pills. I was on all of that by the time I got out of the hospital. So when you see the bearded Dane with the long hair, I didn't move. And, I thought, when I almost died from it, it was just like, it almost got to a place of like, it just broke up. It broke past some fear. And there was this willingness there. There was stubbornness. There was willingness. There was pissed offness. There was a fire. My mind and my heart had a fire in it. And I think it was because right before all that happened, a lot of people don't know this, I had started to get some success with natural medicine. So the first time I started getting success, I did prayer and purpose every day. I journaled every single day what I ate. I cooked everything that I made. I got rid of all the ingredients, all the oils, I didn't care if it was a gluten-free restaurant food. And I think, Bethany, you're doing a wonderful job of making people aware of this. There is so many hidden ingredients. I called it the convenience tax. If something is conveniently made for you, it's probably taxed. Okay. There's probably a health tax. So you got to watch out for those convenient taxes. So I got rid of all the convenient taxes. I started getting myself engaged in the parasympathetic. I started giving myself healing mentality. I started getting in that California sun, and Jordan Rubin had healed in Huntington Beach, and I was in Santa Monica. I was like, I'm right next to you, Jordan. Let's do it. Let's go. You want to pray? I'm praying every night. I'm getting my hands and knees right now. Let's go. God, please, I am ready to heal every cell, ligament, tissue, organ in my body. This is the day the Lord has made, and I am
Amen.
grateful in it. That's where I got. I was a young man. How many young men are willing to do that? When you go through this kind of pain, you're willing. When you get back into a quarter and everyone's saying there's nothing, you are willing. So I got a fire, and that's what you're hearing now.
If you're not subscribed to my newsletters, they come out every Friday and they're called Friday Finds. This is information that only my subscribers get in their inbox. I share stuff like non-toxic air fryers and kitchen appliances, new food finds, product recalls, food news, and food products that aren't even on the market yet, but I've got the scoop. This is not published anywhere else and cannot be found on my blog. So be sure you're in the know and subscribe to my weekly newsletters by going to littlesipper.com/subscribe and enter your email. That's all you have to do. So go to LILSIPPER.com/subscribe to get exclusive information on everything food. Okay, you guys, listen up. If you have the following symptoms, such as constipation or diarrhea, anxiety, sugar or alcohol cravings, poor immune system, compulsive or disordered eating, low muscle mass, poor wound healing, slow recovery after workouts, heartburn or acid reflux, or digestive issues like colitis, IBS, diverticulitis, Crohn's, celiac disease, or symptoms from food sensitivities, taking L-glutamine could be beneficial. L-glutamine is one of the most important nutrients for a healthy digestive tract because of its ability to maintain the integrity of the intestinal wall. This amino acid, which is the most abundant amino acid in our body, helps heal all human tissues, especially those irritated tissues in the digestive tract. It's also been known as the calming amino acid since it's very effective at reducing anxiety, as well as sugar and alcohol cravings. Even progressive addiction treatment centers will use it to help reduce cravings. Plus, get this, you guys, in a 2011 study published in the Yonsei Medical Journal found that glutamine supports the immune system, and it's especially beneficial for patients in the hospital and those fighting viruses or overwhelming infections. Your entire immune system is protected from the toxic environment by your gut barrier. And if that barrier gets damaged, you will get sick and create an overactive immune system, producing inflammation throughout the body. Thankfully, a damaged gut lining can be reversed and can be accomplished by getting enough gut healing nutrients such as L-glutamine. Clinically, medical professionals have found this to be true with their clients, and I myself have experienced the benefits. That's why I created my very own L-glutamine powder under Bethany's Pantry. This powder is pure without any additives, fillers, flavorings, gums, or unnecessary ingredients. The ingredients are literally just one: L-glutamine. It's vegan, paleo, keto, and tasteless. So you can literally just add it to a glass of water, stir for 5 seconds, and sip without tasting anything. This amino acid also works well in smoothies, mixed in yogurt. I've even added it to my guacamole. It dissolves instantly and you can't even tell it's there. And your body will thank you from all the benefits you're giving it to fully heal in the area you need healing, or just boosting your immune system in prep for the upcoming flu season. Guys, I am so proud to finally offer a clean L-glutamine powder I can fully recommend. If you want a bag, just go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry, where you'll find this plus all my other Bethany's Pantry items. Again, go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry. That's nuzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry. I'll also leave that link in today's show notes. What was the turning point? What was that like? Do you think what made the switch was mindset, and then you went into more of a holistic approach? What was that like aha moment? Like, I think this is working. I'm going to keep doing it.
So, okay, there's a few stories that I want to share, and I think is going to connect, and I feel like I'm being called to say is I couldn't understand this when I was chronically sick. Now it makes sense to me. Healing starts in the mind. I did not have the right mindset. I didn't have the conviction. I wasn't really willing to take responsibility. So, what I like to say is, in the beginning, it was not my fault that I was sick. So it was everyone else's responsibility to fix me. I was going to then do what you told me to do blindly. I didn't have any responsibility. I was never responsible for my health. I was never the CEO of my health. I was just going to do what this expert says. I can hear it in someone's voice when they come into my program, or I can hear it almost immediately when I get on the phone with someone. If they are willing to take responsibility, or they are thinking that me, the Wizard of Oz of IBD, is going to give them the simple hack and they're going to do it and everything's going to be okay. We have to stop putting all the responsibility on other people with our gut health. And we have to start partnering with people that we believe are integrity, that we trust, and that can help us with our compass, help us with our vision, help us with our conviction of what we're doing. But you've got to be the leader of your own health. Be the CEO of your health. I was never doing that. So when I got my mind right, one of the things that helped me with all the trauma is, again, I really believe it, prayer and purpose. I would say a prayer every night. I'd actually get on my knees and say a prayer. And then I would say the purpose of my day is to be the best son, brother, and boyfriend I could be. I don't know how. I had a girlfriend at the time who stuck with me through all this, which I never thought she would. And that was 10, 15 years ago. It's a long time ago, guys. But I prayed, and then I said the purpose. And at the end of the day, I would pray, and then I say the purpose of my day has been. And then I'd be Dr. Dane morning and night, 5 minutes a day, twice a day. I would see patient Dane, and I'd step into Dr. Dane. And Dr. Dane would say, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, put your emotions aside. You're going to do A, B, C, D. And I'd give myself a list of things to do. So once I got my mind right, a lot of things changed. I didn't know what to eat. A lot of you right now are not sure what to eat. So I decided to be convicted on only eating what I cooked. That was a mental shift. And then that reduced the variables of what might be aggravating me. Many of us are saying, how am I getting the bloating, the gas, the cramping? Is it food related? Well, you have to reduce the unknown variables in the food. So I started eating a lot of the same things over and over again. And I'd notice how I felt meal to meal. Because you know this as well as me, Bethany, when you're real sick, you get so sensitive in your gut. You can know from breakfast to dinner what messed with you. So I could say, look, that grapefruit messed with me. Yep, that fructose messed with me. So the first time I ever got any results, I was doing very low sugar. I was doing high meat, a lot of ground meat because I could cook it easier. There was less chance of things being undercooked. It was high protein, high fat. I could handle that. I would take digestive enzymes, ox bile. I would do a lot of meditation. I make sure I was salivating before I eating to naturally increase my digestive enzymes. I get a lot of sun. I'd read 3 hours a day because I get my mind out of the trauma. You can't read and think about your problems at the same time. Try it. You can't do it. So one of the most therapeutic things for your mind was to read. So I just read when I was housebound. And I became addicted to it. So I was like, I can understand why people read so much. It's just like I got this genius in here in a $7 book because I'm broke. And I'm just like highlighting and just, look what I found. I'm getting excited. And so healing definitely starts in the mind, and you've got to get in balance. The biggest thing that also changed is I learned how to not just use what I knew to get me in balance, but how I felt. I learned how to be aware and shift my feelings. So prayer felt good. It wasn't about just God or the debates of religion. It felt good. It felt healing. It felt warm. Getting in the sun felt good. It felt healing. I allowed my feelings to guide me in a positive way, saying, I refuse to feel depressed. I refuse to feel anxious all day. I refuse to feel like a victim. So how do I feel balanced? How do I feel at peace? How do I feel love? How do I feel a sense of conviction and self-confidence? So I would wake up every day and do things that enhanced those feelings. And those feelings really you're manifesting. Once those feelings started coming up every day, I knew in my heart that I was on the right road and I was going to heal. And it was actually interesting. It was about 4 or 5 days into this new protocol that I built that I finally slept through the night in like 8 or 9 months. And that's when I knew when you see a big change, and Bethany, I'm sure you have one of those moments too, where you saw this big change. You did something and you saw a big change in your symptoms. It might have not been I'm healed, but a big nugget of all those chronic symptoms just started going in and out, like going away, where you started going, like a fish. I got it. I'm onto something. So I started getting conviction. I started getting personal belief. And for a lot of, and so then I had then I had belief. Once you have belief, that is the most powerful manifesting energy in the world. It's belief. But belief is created from faith and hard work. You cannot just choose belief. You have to earn belief. So I had to realize that every day I had to wake up and earn my own belief in what my body, what my divine body could do. And so that's what it was. And all of a sudden I kept stacking. It's not one thing. I kept looking for, it's curcumin that's going to do it. It's this probiotic I read about. This probiotic's the best in the world. It's this liquid diet. It's going to do it. No. It's stacking everything together. So I was waking up. I make sure my room was always clean. My house was always clean. I'd be making my own food while I'm listening to Bob Marley. I want to love you. Every morning I'd open the windows. The sun was in. That's why I lived in California in the first place. I'd get my tea, put my robe on. I'd sip on some digestive tea, peppermint oil, maybe some manuka honey, maybe some chamomile, a slice of ginger, hot water, real clean water. I'd sip on that and I'd start reading a book. I'd read Tony Robbins. I'd read just books on God. I'd read books on why, the power of now. I'd read naturopath doctor books reading about cytokine reactions and gut lining and epithelial cell lining. And so I would just read whatever my heart needed in that day while the sun rose. And all of a sudden, I was going to bed at 9:30 at night, whereas the last 8 years of my life, I was going to bed at 1 a.m.
And do you feel that you were doing things not necessarily following someone else's protocol? You were doing what served you versus what served the next person?
That was the secret. You just named the secret to my success. I couldn't make sense of that because I wasn't a doctor and I wasn't a specialist and I wasn't a leader of my own health. So I was always trying to copy and paste someone else's idea. And what it was enough years where I had enough experience where I had tried fruitarian diet. I had tried SED. I had been a AIP. I had tried, predominantly carnivore. I had done hookworm therapy. I had made my own homemade goat's yogurt of, probiotics. I had done fasting. I had got enough discipline where I no longer needed gluten or crappy casein or sugars and stuff that I was addicted to when I was younger. So I had enough experience, and I was in natural medicine school working with my naturopath professors, and I was going to lunch with them and becoming friends with them, and they wanted me to succeed. They saw my heart. So I was constantly learning enough where I started realizing that I'm going to now lead this, and I started cherry picking from different ideologies. So I could do I know David Klein was always pushing. I talked to him on the phone when he was alive, and he was going, you got to it's the bananas, you got to clean it out. And there were some good things about the fruits. I said, okay, there is some good things. And so what I learned to do is not say this is good and this is bad. And I learned to cherry pick strategies on what my body needed. So I would have, and one day I could have a fruit shake. I could also have a paleo meat-based meal. And then I would have, something else for dinner. So I would start looking at how my body was reacting because I was journaling every day. I journaled for 6 months straight, everything I ate, every bowel movement, every symptom. So I knew more about my body than the science. All of a sudden my intuition, my knowledge of myself meant more than what this article said about the science of keto. So it wasn't that I was not willing to go keto or I was not willing to eat, 15 bananas a day for the next 4 months. It was I now had enough information where I could start cherry picking and shifting. So that was when I got back to 180 pounds. I got strong. For me, being strong in a gym was a sign of myself. It was my sense of confidence. It was the sense of me stepping back into my power as a man. So for me, it was an emotional thing to be where I said, I'm not really healed until I'm as strong as I used to be, until I weigh as much as I used to be, until I only go to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a day and I can go run 5 miles and not worry about the bathroom. And then it happened. And it took me about a year, close to a year, to get all that done from the day I stepped out of the hospital. It was 1 year. And when I got off, I did a sigmoidoscopy. It was about 90% better. And I had been on medication free on my post sigmoidoscopy. My original colonoscopy, I was on Entyvio. I was on all those drugs. And my doctor pulled me aside and said, you're lucky to be alive. This looks like a war zone in your colon. And she scared me so much. That's why. But I decided to get myself off Entyvio, not because I had science or I had this great coach. Back then, there was no coach. My coach was Jordan Rubin and a few different doctors and Anthony Robbins. I didn't have And I think that was one of the things that really built me. The benefits of doing it alone is, yes, you're going to spend a lot more money, a lot more time, a lot more hardships, but you sharpen your intuition and your self-confidence and your conviction like none other. And one of the things I always tell my clients, especially my long-term members, is I go, look, the goal is that eventually you can heal you better than I can heal you, because you have intuition. You can feel your body in that moment and decide if you're going to eat that or do that. And you need to have that power. And so I gave that to myself. And another thing is, when I started cherry picking, I got over the fear of a diet because I wasn't AIP. I wasn't SAD. I was having monosaccharides. I was having different types of meats, even red meat.
You brought up something that is very relatable, is that so many people with gut issues are scared to eat in general. And not just when they're in a flare, but at least for me, I'm sure you can relate, Dane, but when I'm, quote, feeling good, right? And then I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. I don't want to eat because I don't want to not feel amazing now. I don't want to eat anything. Yeah, I don't want to lose this. This is finally happening. I want to actually have a good night's sleep. And now if I eat this, that, and the other, is this going to put me back in a flare? And there's so much fear around that. And I think that's a huge part, is to get over that fear and do what works for you. Because like you were saying, you were cherry picking. Maybe you don't have to eat 15 bananas a day. Maybe, even you can eat like a half a banana and feel okay, or do all these different things. And I love that you're a huge proponent and you're really speaking what works for you, and to do that versus X, Y, and Z person.
Yeah. And you got to stay on the offense with it, because one of the things I did, so think I had trauma, like a lot of us, especially if you're out there and you don't have a lot of experience with natural medicine. I didn't think I could ever be gluten-free. It was impossible to me. Everything I hate had dairy. My favorite sandwich when I was 16, 17 years old was a white bread with provolone cheese and pepperonis and mayonnaise from Subway. And I loved Chipotle burritos, and I loved pepperoni and sausage pizzas. And I'd had eating contests in high school because we all wanted to gain weight for football season and basketball season. I had to purge all these false ideas of normal. And so how do you tippy toe to that? Now, pain, the pain you went through. And that's one of the things I love talking with you, Bethany, because I think we could go so deep, so relatable on what it really takes to emotionally get success. I think there's a lot of talk about the science, but I don't think we have enough conversations going on in the world right now about what does it take emotionally and spiritually to shift your life. How do you really live a gluten-free lifestyle? How do you really live a life where all your friends are eating at these restaurants, or it's a birthday party or a wedding, and you say, no, thanks? And this is a reality. You have to create a new reality for you. So I had to rebuild how I identified with happiness, because alcohol was an identity of happiness. It's Friday. It's Friday today, right? Oh, we're all done work. Let's go get a glass of wine. The sip of the glass of wine is a signal to your body to release stress. The sip of the glass of wine is a signal to release the trauma, to be present, to let go of work. Well, if we don't have that signal anymore, subconsciously, we're feeling caged. Going to the restaurant, it's not about the food. It's about, I'm with my friends laughing and smiling. If you look at the percentage of laughing and smiling with someone who doesn't have a drink in front of them versus the amount of time they laugh and smile when they do have a drink with them, it's probably a 3 or 4x, I'm assuming. Just look at it. We have to rebuild this idea of happiness. Every happy thing that happened to me prior to Crohn's colitis, I was drinking alcohol, I was eating crappy food, I was up till 3 a.m. Okay, that was it. I mean, prom night. Remember that? Remember that, guys? Remember way back in the day? Prom night. What about your birthday parties? What were you eating? What about Christmas? What about New Year's? What were you doing? It's all actually things that hurt our bodies. We celebrate with poison in our society. That's how we laugh. That's how we make memories. I had to rebuild this idea. So it was a huge spiritual experience where I started practicing, how do I get happy while I don't hurt myself? So I would go to a bar, get a water on ice with a little straw and put a lemon in it. And I'd sip on that and sit around and hug my boys, give people what's up, wear a sweatshirt. They can't tell how skinny I am, hopefully, and I would leave the bar at 10. They'd get there at 9:30. I'd be there at 9:30. Hey guys, I got a big day tomorrow. I was practicing. I got my friends and I saw everyone. I still got to bed on time. I didn't drink alcohol. I would practice going to the beach and not drinking, but having the best time. I go to concerts and I'd learn how to have fun without poisoning myself. I'd pack my food. I lived in New York for 3 years. That was a huge test God gave me. All of a sudden, I moved to New York to take up back my career. My income triples. I'm shooting for Nautica, Tommy Hill. This is after I healed. So a year of healed, and I start going back into my career. So I moved to New York to enhance my career. I start Crohn's colitis lifestyle. I'm working away. By the end of it, I'm working 3 jobs. So I'm working 3 jobs, 60, 70 hours a week, 2 or 3 years later. But when you go from, all right, I'm okay, I'm stable, I gained my weight back, I'm not having blood in the stool, my calprotectin's normal, I'm only having 2 bowel movements, I don't have all this urgency, to I'm now going to take the train every day, I'm working 12 hours a day, New York doesn't have any sun, hardly any grass, there's hardly any organic food, there's no restrooms around. I had to relearn. So when I lived in New York, I would carry like literally a 50-pound book bag around New York every single day. Because I would have all my water, I'd have clean water, because I don't want to keep buying all those plastic water bottles every single day. So I'd pack up literally a gallon of water. I'd have a change of clothes, change of underwear in case, because I was still scared, right? I'd have workout clothes, and then I'd have a packed lunch, because when I cooked, I would cook 4 or 5 meals at a time. So my fridge always had sweet potato. It always had, if I had pressure cooked, if I was going to have any congee or white rice, I would have different types of ground meats. I would have different types of veggies, pressure cooked, no seeds, no skins. I would do all that. And then I might have a really good organic, unflavored, unsweetened bone broth protein with a little bit of honey in it if I needed something on the go. Maybe a little Absorb Plus. That's when I started linking up with Jeannie Patel and got her on the phone, and we became partners and things like that. And then I'd have my probiotic. So I had this system, and I would go to an acting job and they go, "What's in the book bag?" And I'd start. That's when I started getting excited. I started teaching other people about health and wellness, and I started. I was doing 2 years after nearly dying, I was in Men's Health magazine, and I'm sitting there, and again, they're putting me on this stool of saying, here's this good, just doing the ego thing, right? A lot of acting and modeling, it's a lot of vanity and ego. So I remember sitting there in hair and makeup, and they're paying me all this money, and I'm sitting here, I'm going, I almost died 2 years ago, and I'm a changed person. And that's when I was done. I really helped me get over ego. I think if I had never gotten sick and just kept down there, ego would have taken over my life. I don't know where I would have been, because it's so much vanity. It's so much trying to be perfect and it's idolization.
Do you feel like this was a blessing in disguise?
Oh God, yes. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Crohn's colitis is the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. Here's where it goes. And I want to say this to everyone out there who's really thinking, it's either going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you, it's going to be the best thing. And Bethany, look what you've done in your life. Look at your career. Look how many people you serve. Where would you get this kind of purpose in life? Where else?
Well, and you said a great point is that it's going to be either the worst thing or the best thing. And it's your choice to decide which one it is.
It absolutely is your choice. So when I look at it, I turned around and I ran towards optimism. I ran towards, I'm going to try to get things right, even if I might hit a speed bump. Okay. And in the program, I don't even like the word flare. I try to use reaction, because only sick people have flare, and we need to eliminate this idea of being sick. So I'm prone to gut health reactions. Okay. For the rest of my life, I might get a gut health reaction. Other people out there might get a headache. They might get psoriasis, eczema. They might get arthritis. Okay. They might be prone to obesity, diabetes. I'm prone to a gut health response. That's okay. That's okay. It doesn't have to be identity. It doesn't have to be a shackle. It doesn't have to be a verdict. Because guess what? Crohn's and colitis is not going to kill us. 99.9% of us are not going to die. It's about as deadly as the flu, okay? About the same amount of people. What we're really worried about is it turning into cancer. That's what we're really worried about. So are you living your life to reduce any kind of cancer risk? You know all about this, these hidden ingredients and all these cancer-causing carcinogens, And so that's where I'm looking at. I'm just building a life so I can live to 100. Because would I have changed my life at this young in life for the rest of my life? I'm 36 years old. I'm young, baby. Let's go. See, now you're hearing the opposite side of that pain. I am the CEO of my health. I have no interest in poisoning myself. And here's the beauty. I'm going to give you a new reality I want you to create for yourself out there, okay? Listen to this. I don't have a diet. I eat whatever I want. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. There is no restrictions in my life, but I am accountable for what I put in my mouth, and I have no interest in poisoning myself. I have no interest.
I love that statement.
Zero interest. Alcohol, I don't really have interest. My wife is 8 months pregnant, about to have my second child, 7 months pregnant, somewhere around there. I am no interest. Everything stupid I've ever done in my life, I was drunk. Okay. Everything I did that I go, man, that was really a dumb decision. I was drunk. I can't think. I'm not interested anymore. Even nowadays, hey, Dane, you want to drink? No, I'm just not interested. Can I? Since I've healed, I've gone out and had a large pizza. I've done a cake stand. I've had a 6-pack of beer to myself. I've eaten burgers and fries cooked, soaked in canola oil, and then gone and run 10 miles. Why? Because I needed to prove to myself I wasn't made of glass. So I'm not made of glass. My body can withstand those inflammatory poisons, just like a normal person. Normal people are putting terrible stuff in their body too. The difference between how we feel and normal people feel is their body can withstand it. We go like this, they go like this.
And they're so used to it. They're so used to it. They don't know what feeling good actually feels like.
That's true. The energy, the brain fog.
They don't know they can actually feel better from that. And you said something a while back, and I just really wanted to emphasize this, is you said false ideas of normal.
Oh God, how long do we have? I'm so passionate. I mean, I don't know if you guys can feel the fire in me, because on the opposite side of that pain is my life purpose. All I got to say is this, is us be so blessed to have such purpose and conviction, and you don't get passion in life without pain. Okay. And I got hurt so bad. I know, Bethany, you got hurt so bad that I'm passionate. I want to live my best. I'm tired of poisoning myself. So I like to use these terms that make me kind of smile and laugh and free me from the trauma. I'm really big nowadays about feeling safe, feeling good, and not feeling traumatized. I call it the zombie apocalypse. Okay. This idea of normal is a bunch of zombies rolling around who have no idea of normal. 100 years ago, none of this existed. 150 years ago, you couldn't get this kind of gluten. You couldn't get this kind of sugar. There was no such thing as packaged food. There's no such thing as organic food, because everything was organic. Glyphosate hadn't been made. These pesticides, herbicides. This is a complete fallacy. None of this is real. And the thought that really allowed me to run towards this is I believe that my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, and even my grandparents had just as much capability to be just as happy, to have just as much life fulfillment as I do, without all the Cheez-Its, without all the crappy packaged food, without it. So I don't believe that it's giving me more love, it's giving me more happiness, it's somehow fulfilling my life at all. So if it's not fulfilling my life at all, and there's high potential risk that it's hurting my life, why would I keep it? So it's this release of this fallacy of the zombie apocalypse of normal. And I speak like this around other people who've never been sick. I go into a party and someone says, do you want pizza? I go, nah. And they go, oh, why? You don't need pizza? You afraid you're going to, you gain 5 pounds, you're going to lose your 6-pack? I go, no, I don't put poison in my body. Just say, nah, I just don't really like that poison. I don't mean to want to offend anybody, but I use those words. Yeah, it's like, nah, I'm not really into that, man. That stuff's garbage. That's toxic. So if someone pushes me on eating something, and I know that happens a lot of times when we're pressured, I just say, no, I like to feel great. I like to empower myself. And I usually like to inspire others. So I'll teach people, hey, that's got canola oil. I mean, when we were in New York, there'd be all these expensive meals, really expensive New York meals, and it's cooked in seed oils, and it's not even organic, and you're charging $100 a steak. Like, it's I'm just going, this is crazy.
Yeah, and it's not about, pizza's necessarily bad for you. It's the kind of ingredients the pizza is made with. You can make an amazing pizza at home with better ingredients. It's not pizza's bad. It's the ingredients in the pizza are bad.
Hence, I can eat what I want. You can too. You've been showing that on your channel. Here's how you make this dessert. Here's how you're going to make this Snickers bar, right? this homemade snipper. So it's the same thing. So what I teach and what I these terminologies I've given is I want to teach you food philosophy. And food philosophy is to look at any food or drink and assess its risk for you in that moment. So I might use, that's why I call the program Shield. I might use my shield to be, I'm at a wedding and say, you know what, I will have a drink, but I can assess the rank of the alcoholic beverage if I choose to have it. You do this already. Like, okay, what's in it? Like beer, I never touch beer. That is the worst grenade of all, beer. But I've had one drink maybe this year. I can drink if I want to, and I've had one drink and it's September. So I don't need it. I want to wake up early. I want to build my company. I want to change lives. I want to travel. I want to build my family. I want to get in great shape. I want to see more sunrises. I want to climb more mountains. I just got back from Kauai. I want to do more spearfishing. I'm into my life. So that's one of the things is I replaced all these ideas of normalcy with things that fueled my soul. So I got in balance living this way because I got things that really mattered. Because before I was addicted to Doritos and maybe chocolate donuts as a thing. I loved gummy bears. My parents would get me gummy bears every year for my birthday. They knew I loved them, right? So I had all these little addictions. And a lot of times in society, that's how we treat ourselves. That's what we do on birthdays. That's what we do. So I had to reinvent celebration. I had to reinvent how I got happy, how I created memories that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I had to learn to be able to dance without being drunk. I had to learn how to love and smile and cry and laugh and push without tons of caffeine in my body. Like I never have really, every once in a while have some cerebral grade matcha. That's the only caffeine I ever get. I've never even had a cup of coffee in my life because I got sick at such a young age. I never messed with it. So it's like I'm always, and what I want you to take away from this is always second guess this idea of normalcy. And just remember that if something is convenient, there's probably a tax. There's a conveniency tax to it. And even though things take more time, like cooking at home, you can build systems around that. So, manifesting over the last 10 to 15 years, I'd say about right now, 70% of our meals are home cooked. But it's because, my wife has a bit of time. Naturally, she is actually pretty good at cooking. Her mom, and I don't know if I manifest this, but her mom cooked every single meal she ever had when she was young. So there's just some natural cooking abilities from her side of the family that I didn't even know until later on in dating. But I just thought, man, how almost serendipitous.
And we're losing that today. I mean, not to go on a rant, but so many kids are not eating home cooked meals. And then when they grow up, they don't know how to cook for their own children. And they think making a meal is putting 5 different packages together and then that's a meal.
Or
I see this all the
microwaving.
I see this all the time on TikTok. They're getting like a bag of Doritos and crusting it with chicken or crusting chicken with Doritos and all these things. But anyways, that's a tangent. But the point is, and what I hear from you is just stop caring what other people think.
Yeah. And I try to get into the emotional side of this because if we say these words, we need a conviction to shift how you feel, to give you that feeling of I'm going to shift my reality, because truth is just a perspective. We need to shift what our truth is and then feel balanced in that shift. So I find that with, working with thousands of people with IBD, it is so much about how you feel. It's not just what you know. We have to shift how you feel about these things. So I'm trying to use these words and condition it over and over because if I can get you to shift and then you see quick ROI, you're gonna fall in love with this and you're just gonna want more. Yeah. You're just gonna fall in love.
Now, okay, to someone listening that's interested in your program, what exactly do you do in your program and how do you help others through it? Because I know it's worldwide?
Yes.
It's worldwide. So you don't have to live, in Orange County to benefit.
We did a testimony with a 28-year-old girl in East Africa 3 days ago. She's right next to Madagascar. She has no resources out there. What we did is, and she was telling me, she was like, Dane, the thing that keeps me super good, I was like, what's the biggest thing that's helped you in the program? She said the BCPH shake, which is bentonite clay and psyllium husk. And one of her core problems was she couldn't properly evacuate. When she started using a binding agent and cleaning it out. Now, don't just go out and try this shake. You need to understand what you're doing. Psyllium husk can be terrible for some and a lifesaver for others. And same with bentonite clay. But it's a type of binder that can help bind to different toxins in the body and clean it out of your body. Psyllium husk can be great for cleaning out the colon, but if you've got strictures, massive swelling, obstructions, you need to be very careful with something like that. So it needs to be micromanaged. So yeah, the Shield program, I mean, we've got people in remission and gotten zero problems, all of that in Dubai, India. We have many clients in India. I did a call with a woman in India. It was 9:30 my time, 9:30 p.m. her time, and she's eating a full Indian diet with about 80% of her symptoms gone in 6 weeks. And she's there with her husband, on the other side of the world. So for me, I'm saying that also with such excitement that how it astonishes me sometimes on what we're able to do. But so yeah, we work with clients all around the world. Certain parts of the world, it's harder. Like, can you get certain supplements, certain foods? We try to get things local, especially where currencies are really tough, like India, Canada, or Australia. Just the currency to USD is harder. So we say, can we get things local? Like if we're using a type of curcumin, or we're using a fish oil, or we're using a certain binder, can we find local fulvic acid or humic acid? Can we get certain like NAC local if it's so hard? We can ship everything all around the world, but just its countries and customs can be a massive problem. And then trying to get warehouses in another part of the world, it's just a disaster right now for all supplement companies and raw ingredients. So the Shield program is basically it's all about Crohn's and colitis, and we help build a personalized plan for you. So it's a lot of the stuff that I was failing with and a lot of the things that I needed, and I just felt convicted and passionate to build something that solved the problems that I had for years, which is I needed a customized solution. I needed a coach. I needed a successful community who wasn't going to try to just tell me that I had to be AIP, that it had to be carnivore, or it had to be vegan. All those things can be great, but we need to make space for everyone's unique experience. So there is no absolute way you have to eat. We customize that around you. That's why we've gotten such great results with Indian diet, vegans, carnivores, paleo, all of that type of stuff. So customized diet. Our program includes a one-on-one coach. So our coach has Crohn's colitis themselves. They specialize in healing Crohn's colitis. They've worked with hundreds of people with Crohn's and colitis. So they have the heart, they have the passion, they know exactly what it's like to go through what you're going through. And you have DM support with them. You have our private encrypted community on Slack. So, and we are non-governing, so all members can talk to all members. I think that's really important for integrity, that, you're just like, hey, how's everyone doing? How's this? How's that? And people can tell you, oh, I'm still having a problem with this. This has really helped. This is this is that.
So you have a community that people can kind of converse with other people going through it too.
Yeah, over 1,000 members around the world. We have ages we have a lot of 3-year-olds, ironically. 3-year-old, I know it's this crazy thing with these babies.
Weird. Yeah.
These babies are getting sick, but 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 20-year-olds. We have 70-year-olds. We have people diagnosed 40 years ago, people with multiple surgeries, people who've been on Remicade for 25 years. And one thing I want to say about that is natural medicine can only help conventional medicine. Like, it's okay if you need to use a biologic, or you're on prednisone, or you're on mesalamine. But what you do with natural functional medicine can only help. And then because we have a licensed physician on staff, we're able to order and interpret lab work. So we'll do viral load panels, blood analysis. We'll do quantitative PCR stool analysis. We'll do organic acid tests. We'll do mold analysis. We'll do food allergy panels. We'll do cytokine panels looking at IL-6, IL-23, TNF alpha, interferon gamma. We can, in the PCR test, we can start seeing what's going on with your digestion, fecal occult blood, fat malabsorption. I work with Dr. Arman and do his viral load panel in Germany. I actually send my blood to Germany to check it because of the CMV in the past. And man, we have found so much underlying viral load with, especially UC. If your colon is inflamed and you get shingles, you get cold sores, chicken pox, you need to look hard at viral load. I believe that's one of the biggest systemic issues, is that the viruses are shedding in the body. We have a weakened immune system, and it's causing a IgA local mucosa reaction. And that was one of the biggest things that helped save my life, is understanding that if you were eating perfect and still getting reactive, there's probably still something triggering a cytokine reaction beyond food. And it's inflaming that gut lining, and it's affecting absorption of water, electrolytes, iron. It's just affecting digestion, all of it. And same parasites. Another humongous problem is parasites because you can't find them in the lab work. They live in the small intestine, so you're not going to see them in the colon. Most of what you're going to see in a PCR stool test is in the colon. So if something's in the small intestine, no one's really going to find it. Maybe you'll see some signs in your oat test. But those are two huge problems we see. So what we help do is we help look and find root causes. And a root cause could be poor digestion, fat malabsorption. Yeah, these underlying infections. 99.9% of the cases we've seen, there's underlying infections we find. For me, I found candida. It was after all that pain and suffering, and I got heavy into functional medicine. It's like, look, there it is. Here's the test. Here's the candida. It's in your stool. Got rid of it. Oh, look, no acne.
Yeah.
No acne. Gone.
Amazing.
It wasn't the skin. It wasn't topical. It was an internal problem. Oh, look, your liver's completely overwhelmed. Yep. Oh, look, we found CMV virus. Look, it's 10x normal. And it's active right now. Oh, there it is. No one ever did this. I went to all these hospitals. No one checked. I can't even remember them doing a stool test on me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that so many practitioners just don't look and check for those things, and they rather just give you a pill and send you on your way.
They don't have time, though. We have to give them some pay. I don't want to be angry at the doctors anymore. I want to partner with them. Let's partner with our doctors. They are employees of a way bigger system than them. And if they go off the rails, they could lose their license. They just put $350,000 in debt into. They have to see 120 clients a week. As someone who sees sometimes 40 or 50, let me tell you how much, 120 people a week, you have 5 minutes. You think they can hear your story? They don't have time. They're exhausted. And the insurance is only paying for 5 to 10 minutes with you. That's all their insurance is actually paying them out on.
Speaking of,
don't have the time.
Do you take insurance, or do you have a payment plan? How does that work?
Yes. So we take HSA. So a health services account you can do. We just built a contract with PayPal Credit. So you can do a 6-month no interest payment. So you can pay for the program over 6 months. So the deal I'll give everyone in this program, we can do a lifetime one-time investment, including your coach, including everything, every bell and whistle you need for $3,497, $3,497 is the cheapest we can do it for. And we value it at $5,000 easy. If this works and you get the results, I spent $30,000 my first year. So we're trying to find that middle ground of making sure we can pay our full-time coaches, we can pay our full-time team, and making sure that it's affordable. And, my company, anyone who knows business, my company's not scalable because I'm selling people's time. We can only handle like 35 people a month in the program. So it's not something that we can even, when I did a Greenfields podcast, we had actually like 50 people sign up and we had to close our doors so what I'm saying is that integrity is really important. If you partner with someone, I want to be your partner. I want to help, but make sure you continue to be around people of integrity that you can trust, like Bethany. And a lot of times if people have gone through it, that's really going to matter. So, you're going to need a coach. You're going to get coach included. You get 3 months of coaching included in the program. You have DM support. You can DM at any time. It's not just an email and wait 2 days. You have DM support. You have one-on-one sessions, 60 to 90 minutes long. Plus you have a support specialist who's also healed IBD, just to kind of be there along the way with HR questions or anything around, I got this problem, I got that problem, this technical thing. So you have that team. You have lifetime access, no subscription, no hidden fees on the community. I do once a week live for the entire community. So because I only do it for the private community, I'm talking about products, I'm talking about dosages, I'm talking about protocols. And I've done that for about 18 months straight. So you can actually go back and watch every single week at any moment in time, how to reduce calprotectin, how to deal with your child, how to gain weight, how to, ways that we can look at pros and cons of conventional medicine or prednisone or coming off prednisone and working on your adrenals and things like that. And obviously I'm not a doctor and this is not medical advice and you should speak to your doctor before trying any of these things. But it's just a way for you to start looking at options and seeing what else is out there. So the Shield program, all that is included, the community, the coach. We can get you lab work. We make zero profits on labs. I just don't feel it's needed. Labs are already expensive. So whatever I get charged as a practitioner is our community's charge for life. Because one of my problems was I couldn't get labs. I was at home and it's like, where can I get tested for these viruses? Where can I get a mold analysis? I have to go pay. I'd have to find an ND and then pay God knows how much to even get this. So I can do these labs in Canada, US, Europe, everywhere, as long as I have a lab in that country. So certain countries I have less partnerships with certain lab companies, but others I have better. And then supplements, I only use family-owned, certificate of analysis, third-party tested companies. So and I know, Bethany, you probably know this too, The game of supplements is
It's
such a
crazy.
It's
Ugh.
so crazy. Everyone's talking about things. You need a family-owned company. You need to be able to hit up them and say, especially if you're not making it yourself, you need to know what is in this. You need to know it's third-party tested. You need to be able to see that lots CFA. You need to know that, the FDA is not doing it.
Oh, no. And if supplements are owned by these big box stores like Nestle or all these people, and it's under the umbrella, I mean, forget it. You need, like you said, family owned, smaller supplement companies so they know where their ingredients are sourced, all that stuff. So, Dane, everything that you're doing is just phenomenal. And I'll be sure to put all of the links and contact information in today's show notes so people can have access to that and look into the Crohn's Colitis Foundation and the lifestyle that you share with everyone and the options that people have. I just want to say thank you again for coming on. It's just been such a pleasure. And I know everyone listening will benefit from it one way or another.
Thank you so much, Bethany. Thank you for entrusting me and having me on to share these stories and these ideas with your community. And anyone who needs help and wants to learn more, please let us know that Bethany sent you, and let us know where you came from. And I'm honored to work with you and partner with you. And if you choose us, I will do everything in my power to help you get massive success. And we will always be here for you. We want a win-win scenario. And it's not easy. And just for everyone out there who's going through just gut health issues, it's not easy. I know it can be overwhelming. Just realize there's always something else to refine. You can shift what you're doing infinitely, emotionally, physically, spiritually. There's always something new to do and something to grow and aim higher, be healthier than the healthy. Shift the idea of truth, shift the idea of normal, and take back your power to be a healthy, divine human connected to the earth. And I believe that you will be nurtured and nourished.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.
If you're looking to take back your health, it's time for you to listen to the Real Foodology podcast. From the producer of Digest This comes one of Apple Podcast's top 10 nutrition shows, hosted by integrative nutritionist and real food activist Courtney Swan. The Real Foodology podcast is on a mission to change the way we eat. Courtney interviews doctors, food experts, health professionals, and nutrition pioneers to bring you the best info so you can thrive. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of how impactful our food choices are. But it's never too late to start on the path of better health choices. You'd be so surprised how resilient our bodies are when we start taking care of them. Yes, it's overwhelming, but that's why Courtney's here to help. She breaks it down for you and makes the information more accessible so that you can make more informed decisions in the grocery aisle or restaurant. Listen to the Real Foodology podcast today on your favorite podcast app. New episodes every Wednesday. Produced by Drake Peterson and Resonant Media.